Hi, welcome to People First by All Voices. I am Jeffrey Fermin, head of Demand Gen over here at All Voices. With me today, I have Alex Seiler reporting from London. Am I right?
About 2 hours outside of London. Yeah, right now.
Well, across the pond. But thank you for
Across the
joining
pond.
us.
No worries.
No,
Thank you for
Alex,
having me.
give us a quick little intro about yourself, what you're doing, the whole spiel.
Sure. So I just the snapshot on me is, well, you can detect the accent. So I'm half British and half Swiss. I was born and raised in Hong Kong, and I've been in the US for 21 years. That's normally where I reside, and in people and culture for 20 years. Um, Bulk of that time, about 18 and a half in-house. And the last year and a half doing fractional and probably making a return to in-house now, as well as the game plan. And then I also advise a few startups in the HR tech space as well, and do some speaking and some thought leadership too. So that's a little bit about me, like the snapshot, the elevator pitch, Jeffrey, so to speak.
No, so two things. I'm from Miami. The biggest, I guess, superstar out of there is Pitbull, and he's Mr. Worldwide. I feel like you're the real Mr. Worldwide of HR. You listed out like 5 different countries that I wish we could visit. But yeah, very, very interesting. And also, good luck with everything moving forward. I mean, your resume speaks for itself, and
Thank you.
and the breadth of knowledge that you provide, it's impressive. I mean, we had a webinar with you, what, about 3 weeks ago? I don't know, probably a month ago.
Yeah,
To this day, we get compliments on it. We get people reaching out to us on
that's great.
LinkedIn saying, "Oh,
I
that
love
was
hearing
after
it.
that one specifically, I had dozens of messages. So thanks again. Yeah.
No worries. No, I'm glad to hear it. It's always nice to hear. It's obviously validating. Nice to hear that people get so much out of it as well, and that it resonated.
Yeah. So I want to talk about what's going on in the world of HR currently.
Hmm.
I always like to broaden out, say the world of work, but yeah, the world of work, world of HR, a lot of disruption, a lot of movement. AI being at the forefront of it. What do you think is a big pro? And let's start off with the pro, and then we'll get to the cons. What are some of the pros going on with AI and HR?
I think a big pro for I mean, one of the obvious ones is like the efficiency that it's brought, right? Like, there's been a number of years where a lot of HR practitioners, including myself, have said, "Oh my God, if we could get to this, if we weren't bogged down with all this transactional stuff that gets in the way of or minutia that gets in the way of doing our job and getting to strategic things." So, I think there aren't really excuses to not being a strategic HR business partner now, right? Because a lot of that admin, so to speak, has been or will be taken away by AI. So I think that's a big pro for people. I think more it's like, how do you integrate that into your day-to-day workflow, right? In terms of how you do work and how your team does work as well. So I think it's that figuring out, you know, the user adoption strategy as well as like implementation as well. So everything's working at the same sort of speed. I also think that it's going to help create more data-driven decision making over time as well. So I think we'll be able to predict rather than react to things that we may have reacted to in the past. So, you know, I'm excited that I think the nature of the work that will be done will be really like change related, transformation related versus admin related. I think, I mean, the obvious one, I think for people though, Jeffrey, is like the fear of what this means as far as the number of jobs out there, what new jobs are being created, what that looks like. Do people have the skill sets for those jobs? Like, I'm talking to a lot of people who are kind of having a bit of an existential crisis right now, to kind of say, like, the kind of work I want to be doing? Will I have the skills and capabilities for it? Like, because you just don't know what's on the horizon. Like, I think back to like 2 years ago when we were just talking about AI, and now, like, I think I read a stat the other day that about 40% of HR teams are using AI day to day in the system. So it's shifted very quickly, and I think people are having a bit of a like I said, existential crisis of conscience. Like, is this for me? How will I adapt into this new future as well?
I feel like we're running into this an inflection point where we're like, oh, do we really need AI for certain things, right? Like
Hmm.
Emily, our VP over here, she was just cited in a Business Insider interview where she was like, we should not be using this for interviewing. Danielle Farage, I just had her on the podcast, and we were talking about how tough the job hunt is for Gen Z employees because a lot of entry level jobs are taken away mostly because of AI advancements, and people just want to kind of like use that as their crutch to do the work as opposed to hiring entry level jobs. How do you see things panning out, in that standpoint? Do you see maybe more jobs being created, and right now we're just learning what it can and can't do?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a crystal ball. There's days where I wish I did, right, to know what was coming. But I think that a lot of it is like we don't know. But listen, the trend typically is if jobs go away, new jobs need to come about, right? So I think workforce planning is going to be so important, like in the future, and what those jobs actually look like. I don't think we completely know today. I think some people are trying to figure that out. I do think that companies are starting to pay, already paying like a premium for like AI literacy, like, how literate you are at using AI. So I don't think it's a question of like, in some cases, whether AI will replace you, but it's how well you can use AI in a different kind of setting or different kind of job from what you're maybe in today. I do think the examples you use, like, I definitely don't want to be interviewed by AI. Like, I think that's like, like, I mean, I still like if we're already at that point. I know screening and resumes have already, we've already hit that threshold. But like, if we've lost the human interaction in that point, like I think that's pretty sad. But and then entry level jobs, yeah, that's going to be interesting. The only thing I could think is like redefining what kind of skill sets are needed in entry level jobs, and I think that's going to require more upskilling from people coming out of college and school. Like they're going to have to also like either reskill, upskill in college, or think about what that's going to mean as they come out. So I think a lot of change on the horizon. You know.
And hopefully for the better. I feel
Yes.
like there's a lot of negative news. Yeah. Right now, I feel like all the news cycles just all negative stories. Like AI is doing this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's not all that bad. At least here in All Voices, we constantly praise or constantly preach using AI as a way of getting rid of some of the manual processes of your job,
Yep.
while still like maintaining that human element and making sure that you're properly conducting investigations, investigating people. Yeah, like making sure that things are running efficiently as opposed to replacing things entirely. So, any neat things that you've seen out in the wild that you might want to talk about specifically around AI or just HR in general?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. I mean, I am joining. I'm excited about this. I'm joining a Zapier session tomorrow about building your own AI agent. So I'm like, I'm excited about that. I think we also need to become learners from and learners from other companies that are already like making advancements or progress in these spaces too. I think we need to start paying attention and learning from each other a little bit more. So my new focus is like, aside from like, all the day-to-day tools that I think a lot of us are using, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, whatever it may be, I'm just trying to make it a point to like learn something different, or do different courses around different parts of AI every week, just to continue to grow my literacy too, because it's just changing all the time. So not being complacent. So there isn't like one thing I would sort of speak to that's sort of like standing out, but I'm trying to really pay attention to what other people are doing. And if it's not something in my toolkit or I don't know as much about it, like really spending time there in particular. So I have no ego about it. So, and I think like ego could be the death of you in something like this as well.
And very interesting point you just made right now, where you're trying to like learn about agents, learn about all these things. I have seen that different companies are now like not merging, but they're having a lot more conversations between HR teams and technology teams to
Mhm.
help gain a better understanding. Would you consider that a recommendation? If so, why?
It's an interesting one, and I think I actually saw you post about this. I think, and then I looked it up. I think Moderna's just done this, right? Like, didn't they? I think they've recently
Yeah, yeah.
merged. Like, they recently merged their HR and the IT teams, which I'm gonna say I was not that it was Moderna. I wasn't completely surprised to see it. Like, I've already been seeing in the last year or so certain companies that were making their CIOs also their CPOs. So, but now it's just interesting to see the merging of the two functions. I mean, if you think about it, there is so much interconnectivity moving forward between those two functions. But I also think you need to remember that there is the people aspect and the technology aspect. So you need subject matter experts in both. So I do think it's going to create some interesting opportunities, though. People who maybe never saw themselves working in HR may now actually think about HR because it's going to be very not just people driven, but technology driven. So I'll be curious to see what the kind of talent profile is of the people that work in HR moving forward. Is it the same as what we have today, or is it going to change? Because I think the lines are going to blur more and more. So I like that they're testing it out. I'm curious if it's going to work. So I'm going to be watching closely from the sidelines. But I don't think there's a right or wrong answer right now. I give them big kudos, though, for trying, because I think some people aren't going to necessarily test it out yet. What about you?
Yes.
Where,
One of the
what do
things
you, what do you think about it, though? I didn't
I was gonna say,
get
I always like to say I've been in HR tech for 11 years, more on the marketing side, and that does require a lot of like research and understanding. So in this world, I'm very much a theorist. I am not a practitioner. If I were to be put in an HR like role, I would not know what to do. That said, all the readings I've done, I found that companies that have operated like this previously, like one of my favorite books was How Google Works, and they really do a great job of breaking down everything into data and science. Their people team, Laszlo Bach, he was the one that initially like came up with concepts of using like data to do small things like embrace wellness initiatives, like use colors like red, yellow, green in the cafeteria to say this is healthy, this is bad. Really pushing things like engagement surveys to make HR a little bit more data driven. Way back when we're talking mid 2000s, early 2000s. So I, I've always thought that was fascinating. And it's always made me believe that HR is very much a tech data driven department, or it should be run that way.
it.
And also, I have product experience. Therefore, I'm just always like, oh man, like we should build out HR departments almost as products. We want to make sure everyone's running efficiently and assess any issues as well as like fix them. So I personally feel like it could be very fascinating moving forward if on top of this layer of having a data driven HR department, you put in things like AI to help be a little bit more proactive and get rid of issues, any issues that may arise a little bit faster. So
Yeah. And
that's just my 2 cents, but
yeah, and you bring up something that's interesting because I think I'm hearing from a lot of people leaders right now who are, within their companies, they're going through org redesign and restructuring right now, just within even their own people teams with everything happening with AI. But like, if you think about it, would just be another case. If you merged HR and IT together, that's just another case of trying to get org design and restructuring right. Like, it's about creating the right structure for your business as well, which is what we always are trying to do in HR anyway. It's just in this case, it might be merging different types of skill sets that you may not have merged before. Like, if we use AI as an example, HR, I would say, would be responsible for like driving the business and adoption strategy, but the IT or tech side of the house may be more responsible for the technical and infrastructure requirements. So they play off each other really nicely. They just have different pieces of the pie, so to speak.
and do you feel like, judging in your experience, having done a lot of fractional work, when you go into certain organizations, do you feel like that's not the case when you go in there and you start seeing like things might be a little bit fragmented and the or the tech side of things live over here and the HR folks are over here and there's no interconnectivity?
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely have. And obviously I've worked with different industries in fractional and also different size companies. So you can imagine, like, first of all, when I've worked with early stage startups, they don't even have like they don't necessarily even have one dedicated person for both HR and IT, right? You're usually going to somebody within the tech team itself. But I do think that, yeah, they're very usually separate, and everyone is moving at a different speed depending on what kind of industry you're at as well. What I do think is interesting, though, is with you touching on fractional, I think there are so many more people in the market in fractional right now than ever. And I think, from what I have been reading as well, it's going to become even more appealing with the rise of AI for people to hire fractional talent because even if they can afford, say, a full time person, they might not need that now because of the efficiency that AI is creating, right? They might just want a certain number of hours of human expertise each week. So I think it's also going to be interesting to see what happens with fractional as well, because people want to build these portfolio careers. And I think companies may start getting excited about that as well.
Changing it up a little bit. I
Yeah.
promised you that I promised you I feel like we've gone way too corporate. I feel like we weren't as loose as we could have been. So I want to say I promised you that this was going to be like HRT, espresso martinis and
Yeah.
talking HR.
An
We
espresso
haven't done that
martini
thus
would be
far.
great.
So, yeah. No, especially I mean it's 3 p.m. where you're at, right? So like here it'll be a morning. I'll probably need it. It's probably a good beverage to have to kind of wake up. That said, let's loosen up, and I want to hear some tea. I want to hear your hottest take. I want to hear like something buck wild. What is bothering you in the world of HR right now? I want something spicy. Hopefully this will go viral.
This will go viral. Well, we know what the
I hope
most
for good reasons though.
for good reasons. I was about to say. I think that I hate to jump aboard the bandwagon, but you're like picking a topic that's so easy to you probably know what I'm going to say already, right? I mean, the the thing that went viral recently, obviously what's happened with Astronomer is like a given one. Like, I think people already are sick of sort of talking about it and hearing about it. But what I will say about it is I've already seen a lot of posts cropping up about this really says the truth about what and who HR is. And that's like really bugging the crap out of me, because you can't judge an entire function off like one situation as well, right? So aside from like how people feel about the situation, what's going on, like etc., I'm a little worried about what the fallout is that people will use this as an example to say, well, and this is why we don't trust HR. And so that's been something that's like really bugging me. And I've been seeing a number of these posts on LinkedIn because it's kind of like fodder when stuff like this happens, like just a reminder. And I'm like, no, there's always going to be an example of this somewhere. And I hate to say it, but it's true. Not all HR teams or functions are created equal. Not everyone has the highest performing team or operates that way. So it's going to be different. But yeah, that has really yanked my chain recently. So I don't know if that's going to go viral, to be fair, but like that's how I'm
No,
feeling about it.
I think using this, I'm probably gonna post this clip because it's true. Like it kind of annoyed me, and I felt guilty of like posting a meme, and I was like, oh, it's kind of funny. But then when I started like that Friday and even in this past weekend, I was just kind of like talking to friends, was at a wedding, and everyone was like, yeah, man, this is why we can't trust HR. And then I'm getting group text saying like, Jeff, you're in HR, you're in HR, right? And HR tech. It's like, look at what you people do. This is why like we can't trust them. I'm like, come on, guy, like people seriously. Like it's one isolated incident, went very viral. Admittedly, the memes have been really funny. So like I'll own up, I've laughed a lot. But to use it as to your point, like fodder and to kind of like use it to feed the fire that HR is this big evil entity and well, hated it. I hated every second, every comment I got about it. It's just not true, but yeah, people love those biases for whatever reason. Yeah, LinkedIn is kind of heading that direction, and sometimes for the better. Like sometimes it's great to see people like share their stories and like maybe add a little background and depth, and you get to see like what's behind the curtain. But it does get a little cringy sometimes, and yeah, I guess we'll we'll figure that out. We really appreciate you at All Voices, and hope we keep on working with you in the near future. All right, well, let's get on out of here. All right, thanks, Alex.